राम्रो सुन्न छैन भने भन्नु है। क्लियर छ साउन्ड? साउन्ड क्लियर हो? सुन्नुहोस् हो? सुनेन भने भनिहाल्नु फेरि, म यहाँ बोलिरहेको हुन्छु। त्यो स्लाइड देखिरहेछ होइन?
हजुर सर।
Okay, transportation injury, what are the things that, what is the aim of the, in order to know we are studying this kind of transportation injury, let's say? So what is the aim, what are the objectives of our transportation injury? The first one is to know the cause of the injury, to know the cause of the accident. Why this kind of accidents are happening, why transportation accidents are happening. The first one is the cause. The second one is the, okay, accident has happened. Now, what will be the compensation for that? Then, what will be the punishment, conviction? Then, how can we prevent this kind of things? What are the things, what are the steps that can be taken so that this kind of accident will not happen in our future? So, this is our team actually. So forensic expert, police officer, automobile expert. Okay. So team, if you're asked in your Bible, so who are included in this kind of investigation, then you have to say police officer, automobile expert, and the medical legal expert. So, what are the causes of vehicular accident in our Nepal? Most commonly, which we are encountering frequently, very frequently. Fault of the victim, fault of the driver, fault of the vehicle, poor vehicle condition, fault of another vehicle which is passing nearby, condition of road, bad road, and wrong signaling. So you are going to right side, but you are signaling to left side, which is most commonly seen in the scooter and bikes. तिमीलाई बाइकमा सिग्नल दिन्छौ थाहै हुँदैन, बत्ती बलिरहेको थाहा हुँदैन, and this can lead to the accidents. So always check your signals. More than one of the above causes which will lead to the accidents, this kind of accidents. So in the case of transportation injury, for your exam, what is the main important thing? So we are going to study primary impact injury, secondary impact injury, and the secondary injuries. These are very important ones. So what does primary impact injury? Or what does secondary impact injury? Or what is secondary injury? What is the difference between primary impact injury and the secondary injuries? Or bumper injury, what is bumper injury? Then what are the types of injury that is seen if vehicular accidents happen to the driver? What kind of injuries can be seen? How can we determine whether the person is driving or whether the person is sitting in front and near to the front seat or at the back seat? So by determining the type of injuries, by examining the type of injuries that is present in his body, we can determine whether he is driving the vehicle, whether he is sitting in front near to the driver, or he is sitting at the back. Okay, same thing that we do during our practical examination, and that is the external examination and internal examination. Okay, in this case, internal examination is is done during autopsy only if the person dies, but in case of other things, external examination will be done by the examination of clothing in order to say whether there is stain, whether there is tears, whether there is marks such as grease marks. Then, so if you remember how to make the injury certificate, so first of all, we need to enlist all the types of injury that is present in our body. Then where the injury is located, what type of injury is that, and whether that is abrasion, whether that is laceration, whether that is the penetrating or stab injury. In the same way, we will enlist in this case also. So now, how many injuries are there, where it is located, what is the dimension of the injury, what is the size of the injury. So all these things will be recorded. Okay, this is the thing which I was talking about. So injuries in vehicular accident, there are three types of injury. The first one is the primary impact injury. The second one is the secondary impact injury. And the third one is the secondary injuries. Now, difference between the primary impact injury or secondary impact injury and the secondary injury is that whenever the word impact is there, that means the injury is caused by the same vehicle. Primary impact or secondary impact. Now, if there is no word, no impact word, then that means it may be due to the road, it may be due to the other types of vehicle after the primary impact injury. So what is primary impact injury? This is the most frequently asking question in your short case or even in your Bible also. So primary impact injury, it is caused when the vehicle hits the person for the first time. So what we'll see in the body in the case of primary impact injury, the very important one, that is the imprint abrasion of the vehicle will be seen, or patent abrasion, which is also known as. So by this kind of abrasion, by this kind of imprint abrasion or bruises, which are patent bruises, we can determine whether that is the primary impact injury or the secondary impact injury by correlating with the vehicle. Okay. Now, let's go to the secondary impact injury first of all. So secondary impact injury, okay, once the person is hit by the vehicle first time, again, the person is hit by the second time with the same vehicle, then that is known as secondary impact injury. So all types of injury that is present with the same, due to the same vehicle, it is known as secondary impact injury. Now, the person is thrown from the site, from the location where the person was hit by during the first time, then again it will lead to the secondary injuries. This kind of secondary injuries, after the victim being knocked down, then what happens? He may fall to the ground, or he may be hit by the other kind of vehicles. So that kind of injury which is not due to the same vehicle which was used during the first time, that is known as secondary injuries. So the difference between secondary injuries and the secondary impact injuries, again repeating, is that the secondary impact, second time hit by the same vehicle. Secondary injuries, it may be due to the ground, such as graze abrasion, or due to the other kind of vehicles which was not involved during the primary impact. So getting the points? बुझिरहेको छ कि छैन है? तिम्रो यसैमा कन्फ्युज हुन्छ धेरै जस्तो. सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरी र सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट इन्जुरीमा प्राइमरी इम्प्याक्ट तिमीले भन्न सक्छौ, सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरी भन्ने बित्तिकै तिमीलाई सुकिन्छ. सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट इन्जुरी है फर्स्टमा एक्चुअली प्राइमरी इम्प्याक्टमा फर्स्ट गाडीले हिर्कायो त्यसपछि त्यो मान्छे लड्यो भुइँमा हो त्यो मान्छे लडिसकेपछि अब भुइँमा लडेर जुन घाउ हुन्छ ड्यु टु द ग्राउन्ड मेबी अर्को गाडीले ठोक्किन्छ त्यो इन्जुरिजहरू हुन्छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरिज भन्छ सेकेन्ड टाइम सेम भेहिकलले हिर्कायो भने चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट इन्जुरी भयो यो पिक्चर प्लिज रिमेम्बर है तिमीहरूले यो पिक्चर एकचोटि याद गर्यो भने तिमीहरूको दिमागमा राख्यो भने धेरै सजिलो हुन्छ यसमा जम्मा दुईटा पिक्चर छ तिमीहरूले याद गर्नुपर्ने होल तिमीहरूको ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन इन्जुरी यो दुईटा पिक्चर तिमीहरूले बुझ्न सक्यो भने धेरै सजिलो हुन्छ तिमीहरूले केही पनि पढ्नु पनि पर्दैन फर्स्टमा हेर माथिको सबभन्दा माथिको सो दिस इज प्राइमरी इम्प्याक्ट इन्जुरी राइट देन what happens with the person this person falls to the ground and here you will create secondary injuries after hitting to the ground okay the next one is the bumper fracture or bumper injury what does it mean okay first of all let's go to the picture then it will be easy for you to understand so what is bumper fracture so see this is the person and he is hit by the at the back from the back side then this will create a type of fracture of wave shape and this is known as bumper fracture involves in the case of adult it involves tibia whereas in the case of children it involves femur so this apex is telling that the direction of the vehicle where this vehicle is going whereas this is the base and that is the apex is telling that the giving you information about the vehicle the direction of the vehicle where it is going so this kind of fracture is known as a bumper fracture that means fracture which is due to the bumper of the vehicle and this is wedge shape with the apex telling you or indicating the direction of the vehicle so in the case of adult it involves tibia it's a wedge shape with the base of the triangular fragment which is indicating the site of the impact where the force was applied and the apex that is telling you that is giving you information that of the direction of the vehicle it may be seen in both legs or it may be seen only in one leg depending upon the condition whether the person was standing whether the person was walking or whether the person was running sometimes you may see bumper fracture at the foot of one leg and at the tibia of another leg. So depending upon the condition, if he was running or he was raising his leg. One leg is raising and one leg is touching the ground. But in the case of children, it involves femur. Okay, so again, this picture, bumper fracture. Now, what is, if you are given this kind of photograph, during your spot during this practical examination? What kind of information that you can give to looking at this kind of photograph? के भन्न सक्छौ? Robin Fuyal.
Yes, sir.
What kind of information that you can say about this if you are given this kind of photograph?
Sorry, sir.
के भन्न सक्छ यो फोटोग्राफ्स तिमीलाई दियो भने एक्जाममा?
एक्जाममा ढाडतिरबाट लडेको रहेछ, कसरी ढाड रोडमा परेको रहेछ।
ओके, एउटा कुरा यसमा लेखेको छ ब्रस बर्न भन्छ हैन, द्याट इज टाइप अफ इन्जुरी याद छ तिमीलाई? ग्रेज एब्रेजन भन्छ ड्यू टु फ्रिक्सन हैन? फ्रिक्सन भनेको नेपालीमा घिस्रेको घाउ भयो। अब घिस्रिने केमा हुन सक्छ त?
घिस्रिने टायर मुनि परेर।
यो टायर मार्क भन्दा पनि अर्कै होला नि है, ग्राउन्डसँग होला नि त हैन?
हजुर,
ग्राउन्डसँग घिस्रिएर गयो नि त।
ग्राउन्डसँग।
अब तिमीले यसमा के भन्नुपर्ने हुन्छ भने यो वाट टाइप अफ इन्जुरी इज दिस वान, whether this is primary impact injury, whether this is secondary impact injury, or whether this is secondary injuries, कुन होला त?
सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट।
किन सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट? तिमी आफैले भनिरहेछौ ग्राउन्डमा घिस्रेको भनिरहेछौ, अनि फेरि सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट किन भयो?
प्राइमेरी भनेको त सुत्न लागेको भयो, अनि सेकेन्डरी
प्राइमेरी भनेको भनौँ
सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरी चाहिँ
सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरिज भयो नि, त्यही गाडीले सेकेन्ड टाइम पनि हिर्कायो भने चाहिँ सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट भयो हैन? त्यो गाडीले हिर्काएर त्यो मान्छे कतैतिर ठोकियो या अर्को गाडीसँग ठोकियो या ग्राउन्डमा ठोकियो या रुखमा ठोकियो भने त्योबाट क्रिएट हुने जुन इन्जुरी छ द्याट इज नोन एज सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरिज। सेकेन्डरी इम्प्याक्ट हुनको लागि सेम भेहिकलले सेकेन्ड टाइम पनि हिर्काएको हुनु पर्यो है? बुझेको हो प्रवीण?
हजुर सर।
क्लियर भएन भने सोध है, किनभने यो तिमीहरूको एक्जाममा पनि आउने हुन्छ, त्यसैले कन्फ्युज नहुनु यसमा।
होइन सर, क्लियर भयो।
ओके, गुड। Okay, let's see the classification. Types of victim of road traffic accident. So maybe the person is walking the direction, moving vehicle, or walking the opposite direction, or while crossing the road. So these are the three circumstances when the pedestrian encounter this kind of accidents. So type of victim of road traffic accident, maybe driver will be involved, front seat occupant will be involved, or rear seat occupant will be involved. Now, with the help of your examination, looking to the all types of injuries that has been present in the body of the person, you can determine whether the person is driver, whether the person is front seat occupant, or whether the person is back seat occupant. मान्छेमा भएको घाउहरूले गर्दाखेरि इन्जुरी whenever you see, whenever you look for, and what you found, you can determine very easily. So whatever of injury that is sustained by the driver, so injury, types of injury that can be seen in the case of driver. Okay. Fracture of ribs and sternum. Okay, let's first of all go to the picture, then again it will be easy for you. Well, photo era. You picture, ma'am, this is driver without seat belt. Now, when there is collision with the wall, his head hits to the windscreen, including face. Now, this thorax hits to the steering. Then here, this will create dislocation of the foot, or pelvic fracture or pelvic dislocation will be seen, or knee joint dislocation or fracture will be seen. सबैमा इन्जुरी हुने यति हो है। फ्रन्ट सिट अगाडि के छ, कहाँनिर अगाडि हाम्रो हिट हुन्छ, कहाँ ठोकिन्छ, केमा ठोकिन्छ, डिपेन्डिङ अपन द कन्डिसन what are present in front of us, and that will create type of injury. Where it hits, types of injury will be seen. तिमीलाई पिक्चर याद भयो भने कुन कुन घाउ कता कता हुन्छ सबै सजिलो हुन्छ थाहा पाउनु इन केसमा। अब हेरौँ ड्राइभरको मा, सो विदाउट सिट बेल्ट फ्र्याक्चर अफ द रिब्स एन्ड स्टर्नम विल बी सिन when there is impact on the front of the chest against steering or horn boss. Then contusion and laceration of lungs and heart, head injury after striking of head against the windshield. Then due to the upward transmitted force from the pedals or brakes, fracture of leg, fracture of thigh bones, or dislocation of these joints will be seen. And if the door is open, then he will be thrown out from the vehicle. पिक्चर एउटा याद गऱ्यो भने हेर त कतिवटा सजिलो भयो। ड्राइभर अगाडि हुन्छ, ड्राइभरको अगाडि के हुन्छ त, स्टियरिङ हुन्छ, उसको अगाडि सिसा हुन्छ हो। That means so this kind of injuries will be seen. So after the impact to the chest, fracture of ribs, sternum will be seen due to the upward transmission of force. Dislocation, fracture of lower joints will be seen, lower limbs. Due to the after the impact with the windshield or windscreen, head injury will be seen. There will be laceration. A typical laceration will be there in the case of front seat occupant, or most commonly seen in the case of driver, and that is known as sparrow feet laceration. Okay? That is important for your Viva as well as for your MCQ. So what is sparrow feet laceration? Let's see what type of laceration is that one. Sometimes you may be given the photo of that kind of laceration. Photo iron first now. So this is the sparrow feet laceration. Sparrow feet laceration most commonly seen in the case of road traffic accident with the driver or front seat occupant. So if you are given this kind of photo, then it will be easy to say this is the sparrow feet laceration. ड्राइभरमा हुने इन्जुरी र फ्रन्ट सिट अकुपेन्टमा हुने इन्जुरी अलमोस्ट एउटै हुन्छ है। त्यसमा अलिकति फरक के हुन्छ भने ड्राइभरको अगाडि स्टियरिङ हुन्छ, ड्राइभरको तलतिर ब्रेक्स पेडल्सहरू हुन्छ भने फ्रन्ट सिट अकुपेन्टकोमा चाहिँ स्टियरिङ हुँदैन। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि थोराक्स चाहिँ ड्यासबोर्डमा चाहिँ हिट हुन सक्छ हैन, तर स्टियरिङमा हिट नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ फ्र्याक्चर अफ रिब्स, फ्र्याक्चर अफ स्टर्नमहरू चाहिँ कम हुन सक्छ है। Front seat occupant. So same thing. Head and chest injuries by striking against the windshield and dashboard. Now, brakes मा के हुन्छ? फर्स्टमा हामी अगाडि उत्तिन्छ, so our neck will be flexed, acute flexion. फेरि पछि acute extension, and this kind of things it will lead to the dislocation. Sorry, this kind of things will lead to the dislocation of cervical vertebrae, and that is known as dislocation of cervical vertebra, and spinal cord, which is known as the whiplash injury. So you may be asked, what is whiplash injury? Then you have to answer, what is spiral foot laceration? What is whiplash injury? When you will say whiplash injury, then you have to answer. So what is whiplash injury? Due to the sudden deceleration, acute flexion, then acute extension of the neck, which will lead to the dislocation of neck and cervical, which lead to the dislocation of cervical vertebra and the spinal cord. And this kind of injury is known as whiplash injury. And whiplash injury is not seen only in the case of front seat occupant, but it is also seen in the case of rear seat occupants. अगाडिको मान्छे मात्र त हुत्तिँदैन ब्रेक लगाएपछि हैन, पछाडिको पनि हुत्तेको हुन्छ, सेम थिङ विल ह्यापन. Head and chest injuries by striking against the back of the seat. It is also seen in the case of back seat occupant also. पछाडि बसेको मान्छेहरुको पनि सेम थिङ हुन सक्छ. The only thing is तिनीहरु अगाडि सिसामा ठोकिँदैन, ड्याशबोर्डमा ठोकिँदैन, बरु सिटको अगाडिको सिटको पछाडिको पार्टमा ठोकिन्छ, ब्याकमा ठोकिने हो. Okay. So back seat occupants, so type of injury is same. Striking against the front seat, it will create the fracture of sternum, fracture of rib cages, whiplash injuries will be seen. It is possible our passenger will be thrown from the vehicle if the door is opened. Or sometimes what happens, they can also have spiral foot laceration if the application of brake is very sudden and the back portion is thrown to the front, and after the face will be struck with the face and head will be struck with the windscreen, and this can also create spiral foot laceration, but it is very less common. Rarely this kind of things will be seen, but it is possible. पछाडिको मान्छे पनि अगाडिको सिसामा गएर ठोकिन सक्छ र they can create spiral foot laceration, but that is rare. But it doesn't mean that this kind of things will not happen. हुन सक्छ तर that is rare. So we have to keep in mind. Okay. Now, side impact crisis. So side impact crisis, whether collision in what side, whether the collision has happened from the right side or left side, the severity of the injuries will be seen in the right side and left side. If the collision is from the right side, then injuries will be more severe in the right side. So this is seen in the side impact crisis. Usually seen when a vehicle is struck by another vehicle going at right angles to the first one. So if the impact is from the right side, then the parts of the right side, right arm, right leg, they will be more injuries will be seen in that, such as in the case of liver. So what are the organs that is present in the right side? So they may suffer a lot. In the same way, rear seat impact. Severity is less in the case of rear seat occupants. The only thing is that if there is ignition and there is fire, then there is the condition they can lead to the asphyxial death. So rear seat occupants, they do not result in severe injuries. The only thing is that the rupture of petrol tank with ignition fuel, even if they are rare, but are danger and which will lead to the asphyxial death due to the carbon monoxide poisoning. ओके यतिसम्मको केही छ फोर व्हीलर्समा केही छैन भने विल गो टु द टु व्हीलर्स है बाइक्स स्कुटर्स or two wheelers. Okay, motorcycle and two-wheeler accident. The most common injuries that is most commonly seen in the case of motorcycle, that is the fracture of limbs and the head injury. So there is one fracture which is most commonly seen in the case of motorcyclist or two-wheeler, and that is known as ring fracture, which is also known as hinge fracture, H-I-N-G-E, ring or hinge fracture. Motorcyclists is very susceptible to injuries involving the upper part of the body. That is most commonly seen in the head, the neck, trunk, because the motorcycle is two-wheeler and it cannot be controlled and the person will be thrown from the vehicle. So types of fracture, skull fracture is most common, and that is the ring fracture or hinge fracture. The next injury, that is the abrasion, kisreko frictional injury, which that is known as graze abrasion. तिम्रो MCQ मा what type of fracture is most common in the case of motorcyclist or two-wheeler accidents, you may be asked. And यसमा सबभन्दा सोध्ने भनेको what is ring fracture, you may be asked. Then you have to say in which condition that kind of fracture is more common. Sometimes you may be asked, what does tailgating mean? Okay. First, tailgating में Then this one, tailgating or underrunning. This is most commonly seen in the case of two-wheelers. So what is tailgating or underrunning? So it is seen where a rider drives into the back of the truck and this truck, it stops suddenly, and motorcyclists or two-wheelers, they will not be able to stop immediately and they will go under this kind of heavy vehicles, and that is known as tailgating, or which is also known as underrunning condition of the injury. So the injuries that can be seen: fracture of the skull, fracture of the head injury is most commonly seen, Solos in the same way Solos fracture, and the graze abrasion is most commonly seen in this case. तिमीहरुको भाइबामा या सर्ट केसहरुमा आउन सक्ला, सर्ट केस भने एमसीक्यूहरुमा आउन सक्छ. what does tailgating mean? Okay. Now, so what is the role of a doctor in the case of road traffic accident? Okay, the accident has happened. Now, what is your role? What are the things that must be determined? The first one is the types of injury. Okay, we'll enlist all types of injury. Then we need to know if they are intoxicated with alcohol or with drug abuse or not. We have to say whether there is some visual defect or some hearing defect. If the person was suffering from some kind of chronic disease, or there was sudden myocardial infarction, or he was mentally exhausted, he was working day and night, and due to this kind of things, he was so much tired that he closed his eyes and the accident happened. Or if he was suffering from other kind of neurological diseases. Sometimes it happens the person may be suffering from psychological diseases. He was in depression, and so the accident happened. So this is the role of doctor in the case of road traffic accident. we have to understand what is the reason behind this kind of accident, why accident has happened. So, role of doctor at the scene of crime to interpret the types of injury. Actually, in Nepal, the important thing is that we have to understand the types of injury. We are not going to deal with the reconstructing the circumstances of events or the determination of the skid marks of the application of brake in order to know the speed. So these things will not do in Nepal. What we will do, that is the enlisting the types of injury, and we need to know if the person is suffering from some kind of diseases. So these are the two conditions what we have to say. So this is our role. Okay, role of doctor at scene of accident to interpret the injuries most commonly, and with the help of automobile expert to reconstruct the circumstances of events. Then we have to determine the speed determination with the help of the skid marks that is present, which is created after the application of brakes and the functioning of other parts of the vehicle. Not only brakes, but other parts of the vehicle. Okay, railway injury is not so common in our country because railway is only in one place, I think, from Janakpur to Jayanagar, I think. Oh? कोही छ त्यहाँ जनकपुर जयनगर जनकपुरतिरको तिमीहरूको? जनकपुरमा यस्तै छ रेलको कन्डिसन, हेर त। यस्तै छ जनकपुरको रेल। प्रवीण थाहा छ?
थाहा छैन सर।
थाहा छैन?
छैन होला यस्तो।
अहिले त रेल अलिकति राम्रो बनाएको छ के। अब याद गर्नु, यो फोटो याद गर्नु, त्यसपछि इन्जुरिज इन द केस अफ रेलवे what are the causes? हेर त छानामा बसेको छ भने what can be happened with these people? के हुन सक्छ? इलेक्ट्रिक्युसन हुन सक्छ। फोटोहरु याद गर है। यो ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन इन्जुरीमा फोटोहरु याद गर्यो भने मलाई एकदम सजिलो छ। ओके। कुन बेला हुन सक्छ त रेलवे इन्जुरी? While walking along the rail or track, while crossing the rail or track, while jumping in front of running track, one, attempting to suicide, accidentally fall, head or other parts of the body projected from the railway, or when two train collides, or object of fire, or when the person is sitting in the roof of the railway and the electrocution and he is electrocuted. So this kind of injuries are seen in the case of railway accident. मलाई यो फोटोग्राफ्स दिन सक्ला है प्र्याक्टिकलमा? मोस्ट कमनली कुन बेला यस्तो देख्न सक्छौ हैन? So this is most commonly seen in the case of transportation injury, and that is also most commonly seen in the railway track accident or railway accident. तिम्रो अनलाइनमा खूब चुप लाग्छौ, लेक्चर भएको भए अहिले हल्ला गरेर बर्बाद गर्छ। So this is the condition. नेपालमा छैन भन्छौ तिम्रो? Okay, maybe in this is in India को हो नि त। Okay, aviation accidents. Aviation accidents, it is also most commonly seen in our country. So what are the reasons behind the aviation accidents? So related with the complication of high altitude, related with the mechanical defect of the aircraft, or defect with the pilot. That means maybe the pilot is suffering from kind of disease, chronic diseases, or pilot has certain myocardial infarction or certain kind of injury, or other unforeseen problems. Or problems related with emergency evacuation of the aircraft. That is also happen in the case of aviation accidents. Most commonly seen, that is the explosive decompression due to the mechanical failure of the pressurization system which is inside the aircraft, and which results to the rapid decompression, and it will lead to the sudden fall of the aircraft. The next one is the fire. Fire is most commonly seen in the aviation accident. So this kind of fire, it will lead to the carbon monoxide poisoning, and again the passenger will die due to this kind of asphyxial death. So if we take blood sample and we see that there is the high concentration of carboxyhemoglobin, then the cause of death is asphyxial death due to the fire. कसले चलाइरहेछौ त्यहाँ? So alcoholic intoxication, pilots, they must not drink within 8 hours of flying. The condition, the psychological condition of the pilot, that must be very good. The pilot must not be suffering from any psychological or psychiatric diseases, or he must not be taking any kind of psychiatric medicine, or other kind of hypertensive or other kind of neurological diseases. Okay. So what is the medical legal importance of transportation injury then? के हो त? किन चाहियो? इन्जुरी त भयो, एक्सिडेन्ट भयो, के थाहा पाउनु पर्यो? इम्पोर्टेन्ट के छ त? यसको इम्पोर्टेन्स के छ? So the first one is the medical legal importance, that is the identification of the passenger. Identification for the compensation, for the succession of property, and for other kind of purposes, in order to know whether the person belongs from the same family or not. So the first one is we have to identify. The next one is whether that date is the antemortem or postmortem. मारेर पहिले फालेको एक्सिडेन्टले गर्दा मरेको हो कि मरेको बडी जुन छ त्यो चाहिँ एक्सिडेन्टमा परेर भेटिएको हो है? सो दे आर these are the two conditions. के छ तिमीहरूको क्वेसन? आस्था, के छ क्वेसन?
सर
Mhm.
इन केस रोडमा स्कुटर अथवा बाइक चिप्लेर लड्यो भने चाहिँ प्राइमेरी इन्जुरी मात्र हुन्छ हो
बाइक चिप्लेर लड्यो भने
हजुर
प्राइमेरी इन्जुरी हुन्छ कि सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरी हुन्छ
चिप्लेर लड्यो भने त सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरी हुँदैन प्राइमेरी मात्र हुन्छ होला हैन
के होला
त्यस्तै लाग्यो सर
इम्प्याक्ट भएन तिमीलाई सेकेन्डरी हुनको लागि त प्राइमरी के त हुनु पर्यो नि त प्राइमरी नै छैन भने सेकेन्डरी इन्जुरिज मात्र हुन सक्छ त
ए हो सर
सिरियली हेर त नम्बर 2 नआएको नम्बर 2 आउन लागि त नम्बर 1 पनि त हुनु पर्यो नि हैन 1 पछि त 2 आएको हुन्छ नि त हैन
हजुर सर
तिम्रो प्राइमरी इन्जुरिज भयो प्राइमरी इम्प्याक्ट भन्न मिलेन नि त त्यसमा किनभने इम्प्याक्ट भने तिम्रो फोर्स एप्लिकेसन भएको छैन नि त फोर्स इम्प्याक्ट भएको छैन नि बुझ्यौ मैले भने
बुझेँ सर थ्याङ्क यू
अरु फोटो याद गर है फोटो याद गर भने एकदम सजिलो छ ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन इन्जुरीमा ड्राइभरको सिटमा अगाडि के हुन्छ